Hello, everybody. Fiona Lukey's here for my Friday live Q&A. It is Friday, May 20th, 2022. I have just come back from voting. We are in Australia going to a federal election tomorrow, and voting is compulsory here. So I've just come back from voting, which is why I'm running a little late, because I don't have time to vote tomorrow. And the voting booth was already jam-packed with people who all had the same idea that I had, to vote a day early. So anyway, nice to get that out of the way. So tomorrow is a federal election here in Australia, and voting is compulsory. So if you've just joined me or you're just tuning in now, as always, let me know that you're there. Love to know who's listening. Say hi. Let me know where you're listening from. Some of you I know already, because you join in every week and chat to me, which I really, really, really appreciate. And as you know, this is a Q&A session, which is your opportunity to ask me any question you have about anything. Okay. Hey, Cecily. Hello, darling. Hi. Wow, it must be literally the middle of the night for you. I know I say that every time, but you must be a night owl, Cecily, to be awake at this hour in Norway, because it's 9 hours. We're 9 hours, I think 9 or 10 hour difference. So thanks for saying hi, honey. Appreciate it. I hope all is well with you. And anybody else who wants to say hi, I really appreciate it. Hey, Kirsten. Hi, darling. Nice to see you. Really nice to see you. I haven't seen you for a little while. I hope you're well. Thanks for saying hi. Anybody else out there who wants to say hi, jump in. Love to know where you are in the world. I know Kirsten's in Australia, and I know Cecilia is in Norway, but always love to know where people are. So this Q&A session is really, like I said, every week. For those of you, because I know this might, the starts to my Q&A lives might seem repetitive if you tune in each week, but there are lots of people who tune in for the first time. So I want people to know that these are really just very, I will go anywhere you want to go. I'll answer any questions that you may have, and about relationships, about life, about anything really. I've been working with private clients and in this space for, 13 odd years now. So I'm used to having questions thrown at me, and I'm really here to be of service and to help. So if you have a question, feel free to say hi. Hi, Kay. Hello. Thanks for saying hi. And hello, Melissa. Hey, girl. Love it when people call me girl. Yeah, I'm a young girl at heart. Thank you, Melissa. Hi. Hey, Roz. Thanks for saying hi, darling. 4:30 a.m. Wow, you love to wake up to my Facebook Live. Well, that's a massive compliment. Thank you, Cecilia. I really, really appreciate that. So anybody else who wants to say hi, please jump in and do that. I have had a few people send me in some questions, so I do have some questions that I will answer. But if you are listening and you're tuning in live, please post your questions below, and I will do my absolute best to answer them. For those of you who know my work or know a little bit about me, I have a really different approach to relationships, to how we show up to anxiety, stress, all that kind of stuff, how we deal with our past, how we can really expand and thrive as human beings. Okay. And my passion is the relationship space, but as you can imagine, with the work that I do deal with a lot of people who are overthinking or have anxiety or depression and all of those sorts of things that come up. So I'm well versed in all of those areas, and so happy to chat about anything that you feel would be of service to you. These lives are about me being of service and giving back wherever I can, and doing whatever I can to answer your questions. So if you have a question, don't be shy. Feel free to post it below. And of course, if you've just tuned in, please say hi. So my assistant has gathered some questions for me. I haven't even had a chance to look at them, so I'm really answering these on the fly, but she's put them in a doc. So I'm going to just check that document now. And unless anybody has a question, I will answer that for you. Okay, so I've had this question come through. Since I started on some personal growth in relationships, I've been bombarded with communications on how to get a man to open up, how men really think, how to get your man to be more feminine, etc. What's your take on advice that's specifically aimed at women on how to get their men, specifically men to open up, commit, love you, etc.? Oh, that's an interesting one. For those of you listening, you're probably not going to like what I have to say about that, to be honest. But look, I will answer that. It's probably going to be a bit controversial what I have to say. I really, 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 really firmly believe, and I've seen this time and time again in my work, that when we look towards the direction of our humanness as opposed to our differences, how to get a man to open up or a woman to open up or whatever, I don't think we're looking in the right direction. I really, really don't. It's number one, it starts to position men and women as so different, and we're not. I agree wholeheartedly that we express ourselves differently, but our operating system is the same. And you've really got to know how to speak to the operating system. It's not the differences that are important, all right? They're just an expression of something. It's the operating system that matters. And so, if you're coming at this, so say for example, I'm going to go back to the question is, how do I get, what is my take on relationship advice? It's about having men open up, or how to get men to open up, how to get men to be more feminine, how to understand how men really think. Honestly, which is aimed at women on how to get their men. I don't agree with them at all. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to be. I can't be polite about it. I think those kinds of things are really unhelpful. But I appreciate that can be really helpful for people. So this is just my opinion. Take it or leave it. You don't have to agree with me, because anything that positions us differently, where a man is over here and a woman is over here, I don't think is helpful, because it gets you in your analytical mind. It has you gauging and assessing yourself. And whenever we're over analyzing anything, we're not actually connecting. We're not bringing out the best in each other. We tend to come from judgment. We tend to come from insecurities. We tend to come from worry, and we're not actually present in the now. You have to understand, this is something that I think human beings do not appreciate or understand, is that we do our, I'm just going to adjust my microphone, we do our best work in the now, okay? And that's where all the answers to everything lie. So, the greatest thing you can do if you want to open up and get someone to connect to you is actually slow your mind down, is actually stop all the overthinking, which has you get frantic in your energy, and understand a frantic energy will push someone away. No doubt about it. It will push someone away, because we are engaging at an energetic level before we are ever engaging on a emotional, physical, thinking level. Okay, we're engaging energetically. So if you're coming up going, all right, I'm thinking about how I can get my man to open up, and how I can increase communication, and how I can get them to this, and how I can get them to that, and how I understand how men think of how full your head is. Okay, just think of it. Now, when you've got a full head, when you've got a lot on your mind, you are not present. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to connect ego to ego, analytical mind to analytical mind. You aren't going to connect heart to heart, soul to soul. You want someone to open up, and let's talk about human beings right now, okay, rather than men versus women, okay? You want anyone to open up or connect, you have got to come from a space that invites that, okay? You have to come from a space where you touch somebody's soul. When you touch somebody's soul, anybody will open up, okay? Now, I know some of you listening here are going to crucify me for that comment, because they're going to say, how do I, what about when someone's abusive, and what about a narcissist, and what about this, and what about that? Okay. Your best chance of anything, and I really don't want to talk about that right now. That's a whole other different conversation. Okay. So if you've got a yeah, but around that, just put that to one side for now. Okay. That's a whole different conversation. So I'm talking about if you're not dealing in that kind of situation. All right. So, you've got to be able to understand what it is to connect with someone where you are bypassing the analytical ego mind. You have to have that understanding, okay, where you are bypassing the analytical ego mind. Now, that has a lot to do with the space you come from, with the presence that you bring, and how you hold space with another human being, and how you listen. Now, notice I'm using the words human being. Life is so much simpler and easier when we see the interconnectedness of us all, and we are communicating through our humanness, not through rigidity, rules, regulations, which is what all of that stuff is. How to get a man to open up, how to get a woman to open up, how to understand the way men think, how to get men to be more feminine. Like, even just the whole thought of it, it's very manipulative, right? What it's coming from. It's a very manipulative way of looking at things. This is totally unnecessary, complicated, and I think just creates two people in their analytical minds connecting. Okay, you want to connect at a deeper level from a place of presence, from a place of where it's a connection and a soul to soul. People will open up. Absolutely, they will. Okay, because you're bypassing the analytical ego mind. So this is where I come back to the understanding that I teach is what enables, it gives you the understanding and an understanding of how you show up, an understanding of how human beings work, not men versus women. It is not men versus women. This is so complicated and unnecessary, and has people dig down into their self-righteousness or their beliefs or their rules or the regulations around things, and it doesn't actually help people connect. It really doesn't. It just makes things worse. We want to connect from a place of heart space, soul to soul. You can't do that if your head's full of rules and regulations and you're overthinking things. You actually can't, because the energy that you're bringing is not that. So I'm not a huge fan of those things. I don't believe in them. I think there's a much easier, simpler way to do things. And when you feel comfortable within yourself, where you understand the space you're coming from, well, then connection becomes much, much easier with anybody. And you don't need all of that overcomplicated information that just has you thinking, your head moving fast and stuck in your head. Okay, so that is my answer to that question. It's probably going to be a little bit on the controversial side, but oh well. Okay, next question. Unless anybody, hang on, there's a question here from you, Brian. Hello, Brian. Nice to see you. Let me find your question. Sorry, Brian. Okay. How do you deal with regret and guilt? This I'm struggling with a bit. I'm convinced someone to join a social group I'm in because I believed it would help them see a situation differently. Unfortunately, he keeps spinning in circles and wants answers instead of trying to understand the situation. This is taking up time in the social group when we get together, and I feel guilty for putting others in the group in this situation. I hope this makes sense. All I would say to that, Brian, is this isn't about guilt and regret. Your head's just going fast at the moment. Wait for your head to slow down and see what makes sense to you to have a conversation with this person about, and again, the power of fresh thinking, but till your head slows down and you've got more room in your head to say to this person, look, this social group is for this. You seem to be looking for X. Maybe there's a different group for you to join in. Because if you're going to ask lots of questions and do all these sorts of things, that's not really what this group is all about. Is this the best group for you, for example? So you can come at it from a different place where you can actually get that person to perhaps take a little bit more ownership over what they're bringing to the table, and actually get them to stop and see and think whether this group is actually for them, because maybe it's not the right fit. Maybe maybe they need something else. Okay, so it's okay to say to someone, hey, this is what this group is all about. I notice that you're doing a lot of X, Y, and Z. No judgment, just an observation. And I don't know if this is the best fit. What do you think? Maybe you might be better off in a group where you can do ABC, or are you prepared to leave your questions at the door, be present in the group in a different way, and pick your questions up on the way out? But just maybe help this person be a little bit more accountable for what they're bringing, rather than getting caught up in all the overthinking that's going on. Remember, when we get distracted by our overthinking, we lose track of what it is we actually want to create. So focus on what you want to create, Brian, rather than worrying about all that stuff, your analytical stuff that's just exacerbating what is anyway. Okay, hope that makes sense, and I hope that helps, Brian. Okay, let's go back to the next question. Anybody else got a question or want to say hi to me? Please comment below. I would really appreciate that. Hi, Fiona. Firstly, I would just like to say that since reading your ebook a few weeks ago and listening to a number of your podcasts and live sessions, over 40 years of fear, overthinking, overreacting, and anxiety has all but fallen away. My mind is blown at how quick the transformation has been. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Thank you. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I was on the brink of losing the love of my life. My job was getting on top of me, and I felt like I was shrinking away from the world and all of those I love. But the clarity with which you explain things has helped me to detach from my thoughts. I can now see them for what they are and how they affect me. I now see that the real me has been buried alive beneath the weight of them. Oh, that's awesome. That's so fantastic. What an amazing release it has been, Fiona, and what an amazing gift you have given me. Oh, my pleasure, honey. I honestly can't thank you enough. Oh, okay. Question. My question for you, though, is about my relationship with food and how do I improve that? Do I need to disassociate myself from my thoughts and self-limiting beliefs I have about food? I.e., I eat junk food when I'm bored, stressed, tired, etc. I'm addicted to sugar. I gain 5 pounds if I so much as look at a donut. Okay. All right. Great question. The first thing that you is I think is important to understand here is that as human beings, and it's not just around awesome, thanks Brian, it's not as human beings, and it's not just around relationships. When we feel good, we make better choices for ourselves all over in every area of our lives, right? We do. And so, with this understanding that I teach, you understand the difference between when you have thinking you can trust and when you have thinking you cannot. When you are in, you understand the power of being home within yourself, and you understand the power of being in a good feeling. Because when we're in a good feeling, we literally don't feel like those things. We don't even want them. It's amazing. We don't. We look at them and we're just like, yeah, no thanks. And that's also the case so when I say in a good feeling, I don't necessarily mean excited, positive. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking connected, present, grounded, calm, peaceful. Okay. We often, and this is true of all of us when it comes to anything like food, alcohol, drugs, drama, whatever you want to call it. As human beings, what we are actually addicted to is distracting ourselves from ourselves. Okay, this is what we're addicted to. We're addicted to distracting ourselves from ourselves. Okay, and so when we do that, when we want to distract ourselves from ourselves, yeah, we want alcohol. Oh, I need a glass of wine. It's been such a tough day. I'm feeling blah, blah, blah. I just need right? Oh, I need a cigarette. Oh, that's good. That's good, right? In that moment, you are distracted from yourself. When you are having a conversation full of drama, or you're giving someone your opinion, or you're right in there saying, I think this, I think that, you are distracted from yourself. When you are eating foods that aren't good for you, you are distracted from yourself. So one of the things that starts to happen when you have this understanding in your life, you no longer feel the need to distract yourself from yourself. Okay, you just don't. And that's a wonderful, wonderful freeing. I can't even explain to you how freeing that is. Okay, so you've got to understand when you're trying to distract yourself from yourself. Okay, and the thing is, we can only distract ourselves from ourselves momentarily, which is why one drink isn't enough for some people, which is why one donut isn't enough for some people, which is why, the bag of chips that you've opened up that you tell yourself you'll only have 2, 3, 4 of, you just keep going and going because you get that moment of distraction from yourself and you want it again and again and again. What about if you never, ever had to do that? If there was no need to distract yourself from yourself because you were totally comfortable in your own skin? Totally comfortable in your own skin. Could you imagine? Imagine that for a second. There are very few people I meet who are comfortable in their own skin. It's the most freeing feeling in the world, because when we are not comfortable in our own skin, we feel like we have a lot to prove. We feel like we have a lot to justify. We tend to compromise ourselves. We tend to dumb ourselves down, make ourselves small. All of this, I see this all of the time. But when you're comfortable in your own skin, that's a whole different ballgame in the way you show up. It's almost like you're like this, and then you're like that. People who are comfortable in their own skin carry themselves differently. They have a different energy around them. It's amazing. It's like the difference between being asleep and awake, right? So there's that bit that I just want to put out there. When you no longer feel the need to distract yourself from yourself, those sorts of things do not look anywhere near as interesting, enticing, helpful, etc. And in fact, you start to tune into your body more, and your body will tell you, I actually don't want that. That's what's interesting. Okay, I don't want that. That actually doesn't work for me. And you hear it. So when you're comfortable within yourself, you start to feel more connected and grounded, and you tune into yourself. Okay, it's fascinating. So that's the other thing. Now, the other thing that I would say to you is any kind of urge, okay, any kind of urge or craving is just thinking. Okay, that's what a craving or an urge is. It's thought. It's not fact. Okay, it's thought. And so as you have a different relationship with that, You don't see your craving for things or urges as something that requires action. Okay, it's really interesting when you see that. You don't see those things as something that requires action. You just see them as a momentary kind of picture that you've painted. That's all, but not something that requires you to do anything about it. It's really fascinating. This is why I say to people all the time, your relationship with your thinking is one of the most important relationships in your life, as is the relationship with your own wisdom. Because when you've got those two things sorted, you're a lot more present in the now. You don't need to go back in the past and bring the past into your present and overthink and overanalyze and have all of these rules and systems on how to do life. You start to trust yourself a lot more. You show up to the now, and you find life a lot simpler and easier. And so this is where the ease comes from. This is where the simplicity comes from, so that you can show up in those moments and relate to things like cravings, urges, the need to have a drink, the need for food, to eat that thing that you know you don't really want to, or you're going to regret 5 minutes later, or it's going to sit like a brick in your stomach, all of those things, because you're a lot more in tune with yourself. When we're out of tune, those things look like we need them to be okay. When we're tuned in, they're not so interesting. It's actually fascinating. I ran a women's retreat. So it was a few years ago now. And I remember at the end of that retreat, I had been wanting to go on a paleo diet for a while. My daughter had very bad digestive issues, and I knew that it had to do with her diet, and I wanted to try her on paleo, and I said, well, we'll do it together. And every time I thought about it, I would get overwhelmed by the amount of food prep and what needed to be involved and how much I had to be organized on top of, and I had all this thinking around it. And of course, as I was facilitating this retreat, it was up near Byron Bay, which is a gorgeous part of northern New South Wales in Australia, and I'm spending time with these amazing women, and we had this incredible retreat, this incredible time. My mind slowed down, and I came away there with so much clarity, and then it was quite amazing even to me at the time, with an amazing amount of ease. I put my daughter and I on a full-blown paleo diet for it was close to 12 months. And the difference in her was amazing, and I couldn't believe it. And it was because I was in such a different space within myself. I had very different thinking, and it was actually easy to do. So I hope that answers your question. There is a few things in that. Number one, when you no longer feel the need to distract yourself from yourself, you will find you will make better choices that honor who you are. Okay, that honor who you are, and those choices will be not feeling the need to drink as much, or eat foods that don't work for you, or get involved in drama and conversations that serve no one, or where you just start to feed your mind and your soul and your body from a very different level. Okay, you're a lot more uncompromising about it. It's fascinating. And, you really want to understand what an urge or a craving actually is. It is not something that it is not what is the word I'm trying to come up with? It is not a command. It is not an action. It is not something that you need to deal with. Okay. So when you start to have a different relationship with your thinking, when you have a different understanding of how we work, honestly, guys, having this in my life and it helps with everything that I'm doing. I'm actually on a keto eating plan for this month, and I've had a couple of blips, but because of the understanding that I come from, it's been so much easy to move through and live from that space for well, as it finishes at the end of May. But I will continue doing that because I just feel so much better. I feel really, really good. So I haven't wanted alcohol, or if I've had a craving for it, I know what it is, and I don't listen to it. It's been a lot easier to honor myself and to really feel good. So, there's a lot to be said about understanding the way things work. And when it comes to your health, your relationships on every single level. So this is what I mean by I utilize this understanding in a myriad of ways in my life. when it comes to my health, when it comes to my diet, obviously my relationships, the way I parent my children, the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to life. So there isn't an area where you don't draw from this that gives you relief and a simpler, easier way to show up to things. Okay. All right. Just going to check in here. Anybody else got a question? I hope what I'm saying is making sense. If you've just joined the live, feel free to jump in and say hello. I always would love to know where you are from and who's out there listening. And let me see. Let me just check if there's any more questions. Okay. Okay. Hi, Fiona. I've been reading your ebook and found it quite timely given my 20-year marriage is about to end. My husband had an affair 2 years ago and I've never really gotten over it. I'm sorry to hear that. He is and always will be a very attractive man to other women, and I feel I will always be looking over my shoulder to see who he is looking at or who is looking at him. I'm tired and exhausted of fighting. We have a beautiful family and a long history, but are stuck in a rut. I would appreciate any advice, or if you could point me to some reading that may help. Sorry, there's someone at my door. One sec, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry. I've got an appointment. Someone, a client, and they've arrived 10 minutes early. I'm not going to be able to answer your question. I'm going to have to answer that next week because I've got to go and let this client in. They were meant to arrive at 1, but they've arrived a little bit early. So my sincere apologies, everybody, but I've got to go and take care of that. Keep that. I will answer that question next Friday. And if you have any other questions that you want me to answer, hello@fionalukis.com.au, and I will answer them for you then. Thanks, everybody. Lots of love. Sorry, I've got to fly, but that's why my dog is barking. See you, everyone. Ciao.